morning to you.
Good morning.
Bit of a packed last half hour. Didn't get a chance to have a chat with you, so I want to come back to you. First of all, on ID cards, before we talk about these racist policies, but on national ID cards, 2.5, well, it's 2.3. By the end of the show, I'm guessing it's going to be 2.5 million people signing a petition to oppose digital ID cards. We just spoke to Ross Clark about it, and talking about, these aren't going to stop the small boat migrants getting a job. This is just abject nonsense. It's embarrassing. But there are just so many more concerns about these cards that make them different from having a passport, having a credit card, having an NHS app to renew your prescriptions. Why is it different? And why are the people like me who are worried about it not, we're not conspiracy theorists?
For the first time in our lifetimes, there is going to be somewhere, not entirely sure where, but probably provided by some private company that's paid for the research that's led to this, a database in which a file is kept on you. And the Julia Hartley-Brewer file will say what she was doing in 2005 and whether or not perhaps she wore a mask during COVID. And they may even go into your old file from when, during the pandemic, the government spy agency kept tabs on what you were tweeting and
sent into a counter-terrorism unit in the United States. Nothing to see here, people. Nothing to see here.
And put it all into that one little repository, and then they're going to use that data to make decisions about, for example, whether or not you get a council house, or whether or not you get seen by a GP today, or whether or not you're a good person or a bad person.
No, hold on a minute. I can imagine people listening here going, that's a load of nonsense. Why? And there's no one's talking about doing that. Well, that's a conspiracy theory.
The infrastructure that they are building takes us from something. We already have a national insurance number that identifies you as a British person. We already have passports.
Able to work, yeah.
We already have driving licences. This is something different. What is the difference between a driving licence, a passport, a national insurance number and this? What it is there will be one centralised computer system. And sure, maybe day one it will just have these little files attached to it. But do we really think that governments that love to keep tabs on people, that love data, think they can make everything, the more they know about us, the better they can keep control of us? Do we honestly think that is where it's going to stop?
Exactly.
And that's what I worry about.
And it won't necessarily be in the case of a pandemic or a war. I mean, many people are predicting, anyone paying attention knows that one or both of those are going to happen again, probably in my lifetime, probably much sooner. I mean, and that's the thing. Think about it. It's like when you get a passport order, that's a moment in time, and it's proof. I think it's absolutely right. I should be able to prove who I am and what my nationality is going in and out of the country, or prove I've passed a test to drive. This is something that could be used. A, it's live, it's constant, it's updated constantly. B, it's got all your information in one place, which is supposed to be the selling point. But actually, having had my bag stolen a year ago, I can see why that would be a particular issue. If someone had access to your phone and could see all this stuff. But also the hacking risk, just from the nefarious actors. Given that the banks and Marks and Sparks can't protect their own data, the MOD can't protect their own data, I'm not entirely sure I'm going to trust them to protect mine. But so you've got that side of things. But the control aspect is the bit that most terrifies me. We've seen what's happened in China. It's very, very, very clear. And most people think, if you tell people about this, they think you're talking about some silly science fiction, dystopian Hollywood film. It is the case in China that you are constantly monitored and tracked.
You get a score.
You get a score. You have your social credit score. If you do something, either committing a crime, okay, you might want to, great, it will deter people from committing crime. But some of the crimes, remember, write a tweet or say something critical, or maybe complain to your school because they brought another cross-dresser in and said it's about trans rights, yeah? Oh, we'll all be on that list, guys. So you lose your social credit for that. And at some point, when you lose enough social credit, you can't buy things. You're not allowed to get a train ticket or buy a plane ticket. You're not allowed to attend a concert. You're not allowed to. Why would they not include? For a disease which barely had any impact on people under the age of 70, they were excluding kids from school, youngsters from university, most of us from our jobs. You think, and they were going to try to stop us from going to watch a football match or going to the pub. You seriously think they wouldn't do that again? This is the thing I find extraordinary. To say that this is a conspiracy theory. It actually happened during they tried to do it. What happened to the truckers in Canada? when they just said we don't want to have vaccine passports to go to work. What's happened in New Zealand, in Australia, in terms of people, but also what is happening right now in China. This is not a dystopian science fiction future. It's in the here and now. It's happening already. Why do you think uniquely that our government is trustworthy when every government we've had today has proved itself to not be trustworthy?
There's also something very, very un-British about this proposal.
We're very different from European countries on this, aren't we?
They have had a papers, please country, but the UK has been different for two reasons. Firstly, because we're an island nation and people are not coming and going. And secondly, because broadly speaking, in the history of these islands, we have had a sense of community, a sense of locality, a sense of rootedness in our people, in which it meant we didn't need voter ID. Why? Because you knew who your neighbour was, and the person at your little polling station when you went to vote, my granny and my grandpa used to do it for years, they knew everybody. They'd cross their name off before they come in that village, and as a result, the policemen knew who the wrong ones were. People knew who each other were. And we got to have precious, valuable liberties, rights that our European cousins didn't have. But politicians have squandered that. They have squandered the trust that we have in one another, the familiarity, the sense of safety, such that they now turn around to us and they say, oh, well, everyone's feeling a bit dangerous, so now we need to keep tabs on you
But
instead.
also, again, this crucial relationship between the individual and the state, which is that, and it's like the American Constitution, we the people. I know we have a constitutional monarchy in that, but fundamentally, overstep your mark, you're out. We know that's how
it's happened in history.
And the monarchs know that. But at the end of the day, we're the people in charge. When people talked about returning sovereignty from the EU to Parliament, returning it to the British people, because we elect the MPs in Parliament. Ultimately, we are sovereign. And the rule is, in terms of criminal law, it's not like the government allows us to do things. No, we can do everything that is not expressly forbidden by law, and everything else we do is no one's business. A police officer cannot stop me and say, "What are you doing?" None of your sodding business. Unless you can tell me the crime you are suspecting me of, you don't have a right to stop me and ask for my information. And that is really important. And this whole idea that if you've got nothing to fear, you've got nothing to hide. No, sorry, I've never had an affair. I don't have any dodgy financial dealings. I haven't got a criminal record. I've not got, I haven't had health treatment I want anyone to know about. Not any of that. No, I have got nothing to fear in that sense, other than the fact it's none of the government's sodding business to know my personal details unless I choose to give them, or they're required by law, as yes, I'm required to pay taxes, so you need to know my income, and it's useful for me to be able to do my prescription online. I've got no problem with that, but I don't want anyone overseeing that and linking it to any other part of my life.
Yeah, and this comes as part of a pattern of other things as well. We know that the Bank of England is looking at introducing a central bank digital currency in which every transaction you make will be tracked, will be kept on a database. And look, I'll be honest, I don't trust this government. No. I don't trust the British government generally, which changes colours.
I wouldn't trust Reform or Tory or any government on this. I'm sorry, Tories proved themselves to be utterly untrustworthy.
We have some basic privacy that we're entitled to as people. We don't need the government to do it. We just want you to do your job, secure the borders, secure our freedoms, and get on with delivering.
Let's talk about secure government. One of the reasons, the reason that's been cited, so apart from that, it's all very convenient, and because Tony Blair had a quiet word and is set to make billions from it. And I'm sorry, Tony Blair, every solution to every problem is digital ID cards, and all his clients and all he's up to his neck in this. He really is. But Keir Starmer had a quiet word. He reckons that ID cards is what's needed to tackle illegal migration. We had a record 125 migrants arrive on British shores in a single boat.
Mega dinghy.
A mega dinghy. But digital ID cards are apparently the answer. Meanwhile, we're talking about legal migration, and that's been front page news with Keir Starmer yesterday calling Reform's migrant policy racist and immoral. His claim being that, this idea that people who've come here and been promised a right to stay, that these are the part. He said they're part of the fabric of our society, but But Nigel is outrageous to try and say you'd have to reapply and leave. Whereas the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood today is going to be announcing a policy, a good citizen test. So you basically, even if when you want settled status, you're going to have to prove your income. You're going to have to prove you made a contribution to society. I mean, it's like community. I'm sorry, if someone's paying millions in tax, I'm quite happy for them not to go and volunteer at the local library. Thank you very much. I'd rather they paid the tax and paid their way. I really think that's mad. But you have to not commit a crime and all the things. But this is basic bare minimum. That policy doesn't backdate, right? So that policy is okay, but Nigel Farage's policy is racist. Can you explain to me why that would be?
Keir Starmer is absolutely scrambling like a Prime Minister I have never seen before. He is the most unpopular British Prime Minister in history. Never been as unpopular.
Can we give him a round of applause? Come on. Well done, that Prime Minister.
It's nice to set a record for something.
No, exactly. He's good at something, being rubbish.
But look, this policy, the fact that this, for starters, the fact that you do not already have to prove that you're not a criminal, that you're making a contribution to society, that you're putting in more than you're taking out before we say to you, no, you get to stay here forever for the rest of your life after 5 years. I cannot understand why that's there. I do need to correct you on one thing, actually. This is also the case that if you've got asylum, if you've got asylum acceptors, after 5 years you just get the right to stay forever, no matter if the country where you came from continues to be dangerous. And we know, by the way, that some so-called Afghan refugees are going back on holiday to Afghanistan. That's the level to which they're taking the mickey out of us. No matter if you're making a contribution, no matter if nothing, you stay here for 5 years. That's it. It's like squatters' rights. You're here for good. We can never get rid of you. Bring your aunts, bring your uncles. Bob's your uncle. Probably Bob and quite a few other people are your uncles, because they're all claiming to be your uncles when they're coming over.
No DNA. You can't have DNA tests. That would be illegal.
And that is the extent to which our systems have been abused. And if you want to know why your high street looks different, if you want to know why your doctor takes 3 weeks to see you when it only used to take 1 week, if you want to know why you're earning less for the same job you've always done, that's the reason why. Because our systems have been weaponised by dangerous people at times, opportunistic people at other times, who have milked it for everything it's worth. And politicians, if they think that throwing names around like racist or anything else is going to work anymore, they've got another thing
and
coming.
It's not even that it doesn't work anymore, as in put people off it. It actually makes people more determined, because when good people are being told they're racist to a policy, which, by the way, has no mention of race in it whatsoever, although statistically different countries do have very clear, on average, records of when they are. I mean, you know, it's really, really clear that there are some countries, I'm with you, there are some countries which go, I'm not sure, unless someone has got like a PhD.
It's a genuine brain surgeon.
No, a genuine brain surgeon's got a PhD. They've already got 3 multi-million-pound companies, and they're going to come here and create jobs. Unless you fit some of those rules, I'm pretty sure we don't necessarily need you to come and live in this country. I'm not sure you're going to be a net contributor. But this is a madness. I mean, I just find it extreme. But we've also got the issue, of course, we've had to import all these people, haven't we? Because A, it's improved our economy. Didn't do that. No. B, we needed them in NHS. No, we didn't need that. We could have just trained up people who had the grades and wanted to learn to be doctors and nurses. And B, because we haven't got these young people who won't work. We've got 1 in 8 young people in this country who are they're NEETs, not in education, employment or training. And I've been saying that statement, okay, the number varies, it goes up, it goes down. I've been talking about NEETs for about 15 years. These people are still... I do not understand why anyone finds it difficult to make sure that young people are doing something useful. They have no access to benefits, full stop. They're mum and dad's problem. And as we were discussing earlier, if your kid doesn't have a work ethic and doesn't have any qualifications because you are such a useless parent, that's going to be your problem, not ours. I'm sorry. I consider the job of a parent to be turn out a nice, law-abiding person who can have relationships, have friends, works hard at school, and some kids aren't academic. That's not the problem. I would rather my kid had a work ethic than straight A-levels, because a work ethic will get you further in life. And there's no excuse for any parent who's doing their job even vaguely properly to not turn out a kid who can go out and get a job and understands hard work, and whether it's bar work or cleaning the streets or cycling around. I mean, apparently there are loads of jobs going delivering takeaways because all the illegal migrants are able to do those jobs. So I mean, it just seems to me blatantly obvious. So Rachel Reeves is saying it's really bad for young people to be out of work for a long time. So she's going to allow them to be out of work for 18 months. So a tenth of their life, they're going to be. That is not tenths. That's wrong maths. Apologies, but that is mad. I mean, that's absolutely mad. That they should be doing that. I mean, insane that they should be doing that. But I would say 3 months max, and then we are going to put you on workfare, and you're going to be cleaning the streets, and you're going to be doing something useful. Otherwise, mum and dad are going to have to pay for you. End of. I can solve this for you in 6 months.
When did we lose the idea that the welfare state was something you had to pay into before you got something back? You have to make a contribution in the good times so that there was a safety net in the bad times. That was how it was sold to the British public. That was how the system was built. That was how it was designed. And there are pensioners in this country that have paid in their entire lives and are struggling because it can be tough to survive on the state pension with all the stuff. And how insulting is it to them for an 18-year-old Wally or worse to be sat around drinking cider, smoking cannabis, playing his Xbox on the rock and roll already? It is not good for that person. It is unfair for everybody else. And I think we all know there are people in our local area that we've met, we've seen, we're aware of who they are, that are swinging the lead, and it is not fair. It is not fair for the rest of us, and it's about
time. It's not fair on them as well.
It's not fair on them, and it's about time, actually, as a society, we got back to the idea that we just said to people, no, hang on, shame on you. That is shameful to sit around all day in your front garden, drinking and showering and causing a mess.
That's what I would. The only reason I work is so I don't spend all day doing that. I would be doing that.
And look,
having a great time.
I accept that the biggest problem in our country right now is migration and the way that they are taking the mick. But I have seen this trend.
But if employers couldn't employ people illegally like that, or couldn't employ people on cheap rates because we've got mass immigration, they would have to trade up these young people. They wouldn't have an excuse. There would be jobs, and when they're hungry enough, they will do the work.
But I have seen this trend, and Julia, you and I know we've had phone calls on this topic before, when people go and they say, look, the migrants are coming over here, they're taking for all of this, why shouldn't I get what I possibly can get? And I'd say to anybody listening, maybe they know somebody like this, maybe they thought about it themselves, don't let them bring us down to that level. The fact that people are breaking into this country illegally doesn't mean that we have to go and nick money off people that are working, that are trying hard, in order for us to just sit around cushy at home, because it's not right. That's not the British way, and we should be better than that.
Absolutely. Hear to all of that. You're